Bring the meeting to order. Let's all rise and pledge allegiance to the flag before we get started. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I guess before we get started, we do have a short presentation. Chuck Yeiser, the Fair Districts of PA.
You guys want to come and sit in the audience, or do you think you can see the screen from where you're at? I will kill the one light.
Yeah, kill the lights.
I think it's just this one. That should be better, I think. You're too many out, we'll how's that? All right. Good evening. I'd like to thank the supervisors for giving Fair Districts PA a chance to speak tonight. My name is Chuck Yeiser. I'm an engineer and a small business owner in Phoenixville. I also happen to serve on the Lower Frederick Planning Commission here. And I've been living in southeastern Pennsylvania for the last 34 years. Before we launch into tonight's presentation, let me give you a little background on Fair Districts PA. Fair Districts PA came together in January of 2016 when leaders in Pennsylvania good government nonprofits realized they needed to work together more effectively to support legislators interested in changing the way we draw legislative districts. Leadership of the group is provided with the League of Women Voters, the Common Cause Pennsylvania, with member organizations from all sides of the political spectrum and all corners of the state. This presentation will take us back to Civics 101 as we review how our district lines are drawn, the problems these lines have caused, fixes, and how we can pass a state constitutional amendment. We need support to pass the state constitutional amendment, and that's why a municipal resolution is so important. There are three concepts or words you need to really understand well to understand why gerrymandering happens. The first is reapportionment. Every 10 years we have a national census, and the Census Bureau counts the people. Based on the count, congressional seats are reassigned or reapportioned. According to the law, there are 435 congressional seats, and those seats are assigned by population. In 1964, the Supreme Court determined the general basis of apportionment should be one person, one vote. If a state gains population, that state gains in seats. If a state loses population, that state loses in seats. Historically, Pennsylvania has been losing at least one congressional seat per census. Compared to other states, despite what the little blip we have here in Lower Frederick possibly gaining some population, and our population statewide has been stagnant, and we've even been losing population. It's expected that we will lose one seat or perhaps even two seats as a result of Census 2020. So to recap, reapportionment happens by law every 10 years after the census. Some states gain, some states lose. Pennsylvania will lose. Reapportionment automatically triggers redistricting. That's our second word. As you lose or gain seats, you have to redraw district lines within the state to keep those districts in every state relatively even. There are rules about how close the populations have to be and how the lines get drawn. In Pennsylvania, the U.S. congressional districts are done through the normal legislative process. So here's how it works. Somewhere there are some very smart map makers figuring how to best draw the lines, draw the maps to favor their majority party. They hand that map to the state legislator that passes a bill, and the U.S. congressional lines are drawn. The state house and state senate lines in Pennsylvania are drawn differently. These are drawn by a commission of 5 individuals. This commission consists of 4 party leaders, 2 from the Republican Party and 2 from the Democratic Party. The 5th commission member is the chair. The 4 party leaders are expected to choose a chair. When they're deadlocked, which, by the way, is just about always, the chair is chosen by the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. In fact, currently the Pennsylvania Supreme Court is controlled by Democrats. So if we do nothing and do things the way we have been, control of drawing the state house and senate lines will go to the Democrats in 2020. Redistricting truly is a bipartisan issue. So you might ask, where were these 5, who are these 5 individuals who made up our current map? Here they are, 2010. They look friendly, they look happy too. Do these 5 guys look representative of Pennsylvania's electorate? I don't think so. There's not a lot of diversity here. The 5 guys have to follow certain rules when they draw the state house and state and senate district lines. There's no legislative process here. There'll be no vote in the state house or the senate, and the governor will not sign any bill. The Pennsylvania Constitution says the Commonwealth shall be divided into 50 senatorial and 203 House districts, which shall be composed of compacted contiguous territory as nearly equal in population as practicable, unless absolutely necessary, no county, city, incorporated town, borough, township, or ward shall be divided in forming either a senatorial or representative district. This language may sound familiar. This is the same language that the Pennsylvania Supreme Court used about a week ago to throw out the congressional district lines. We all live in Montgomery County, and we know that these rules, in fact, are not followed very closely. So here's the timeline for the next redistricting. April 1st, 2020 is Census Day. The census count goes to the President by the end of 2020, and the apportionment goes to the U.S. House on January 10th, 2021, and redistricting data goes out to the states April 1st, 2021. By the end of 2021 or early 2022, most of the redistricting should be complete. Which brings us to our third concept or word, gerrymandering. Gerrymandering is manipulating electoral maps for political advantage. It's a conflict of interest that threatens the integrity of our elections. One of the earliest people to take advantage of this was Massachusetts Governor Elbridge Gerry. He approved some crazy lines back in the early 1800s to favor his party, and a local reporter at the time said the map looked like a salamander, hence the term gerrymander. The same people who draw the maps have a vested interest in creating districts that help them stay in office. What you need to understand here is that gerrymandering allows our elected officials to choose their voters rather than the other way around. So how does gerrymandering work? You may have seen this chart. It's been around. John Oliver's used it. Trevor Noah's used it. They both use these charts in their shows. And basically it shows that if you have a certain number of units, you can divide them in different ways to get different results. If your population is 60% blue and 40% red, you can divide them this way. And you get perfect representation. Blue gets three districts, and red gets 2 districts. If you divide the units a different way, blue gets all the representation and red gets no representation. Pretty smart. Or if reds are the ones drawing the lines, the units can be divided in such a way that the minority party would actually end up with majority representation. So that's gerrymandering in a nutshell. While this slide illustrates how we can divide up populations in different ways, it has a major flaw in that it assumes the population is binary, reds and blues only. Let's see how this works with a population that's closer to reality, which includes third-party voters. We're not all red and blue. We have lots of unaffiliated voters and third-party voters. In fact, nationally, this is a surprise to a lot of people, nationally 39%, about 39% of people are not affiliated with either party. There are a lot of states that have open primaries. In Pennsylvania, where we don't have open primaries, that number is about 13%. In a typical 2-party grid, those voters don't count. If we include those voters, and if we draw the lines in a competitive fashion as shown on the left, we're appealing to the center. we would be appealing to moderate voters, and we would be trying to put together a majority that's actually representative of the people in our district. The result would be more collaborative and more inclusive, or we can draw what's known as a sweetheart gerrymander to ensure incumbent safety. Sweetheart gerrymandering has been used historically by both parties. If you're a red candidate at the top, you have it made. No one's coming after you. And if you're a blue candidate at the bottom, you also have it made. You have no competition. The only place there will be competition in an election is in the middle. This region, Montgomery County, could be in the middle, but the map makers keep drawing us more and more carefully to make sure that we don't have that voice. Let's look at another form of gerrymandering, cracking. Cracking is done when one party controls the process. Take, for example, the competitive district on the left, where we have a naturally occurring population of red rural districts and blue urban ones. The map makers draw the lines to crack the districts to get proportionally more red seats than blue ones, and the blue members become an irrelevant minority. Once again, the voices of independent and third-party voters are diluted as the reds and blues can win their districts without them. A third form of gerrymandering is packing. Packing is when you take a group of voters and you jam them into one district. You'll see that around our larger cities. The urban districts loop out to packing voters close to the cities to leave districts surrounding the cities safer for the opposite party. One example of packing occurs in Lower Merion, where an affluent blue suburb of Philadelphia is voting in the same district as West Philadelphia. Again, if you look at the population on the left, it would be possible to draw lines that would include the voices of third-party voters and independents, where their voices are needed to form a majority, where they might even be able to win. Packing, along with cracking and sweetheart deals, ensures that non-major party and unaffiliated voters are marginalized. They have no voice, their votes don't count. So let's go back to the key questions about gerrymandering. The key question is not which party gets the most seats, but whose votes count most, whose voices are discounted, and what values are rewarded. In our current system, collaboration, cooperation, moderation, and problem solving are not rewarded. Instead, extremism is rewarded. As you draw those safe districts, you push the elections to the extreme. Pennsylvania District 7 is often quoted as one of the most gerrymandered districts in the country. It's been given the name Goofy Kicking Donald. I'm sure you can see that up there. You can see Goofy's ears, his mouth, and his foot. It's not the shape that really matters here. The shape is a symptom, but it's not necessarily the problem. To understand the intent and harm of gerrymandering, you need to see it in context. In this slide, you can see the artful choreography that divides post-industrial, urban, mostly minority communities among white suburban rural areas. District 7 starts in Montgomery County, snakes through Delaware County, Lancaster, and finishes up in Berks. District 6 does the same thing, but in reverse. And then look at District 16. 16 is a real tragedy. Look at the top little corner. Do you see Reading? I'm going to draw a little blue circle around. In 2010, Reading was one of the poorest urban areas in the country. Recent statistics show that Reading has the most underfunded school district in the state and one of the most underfunded in the nation. Reading has been drawn into District 16. Most of District 16 is made up of Lancaster County, where the economy is primarily focused on agriculture and tourism. Consequently, Reading's voters end up with no real representation at the national level and very little representation at the state level. Imagine how that vote would be different if Reading was aligned with other small urban areas such as Coatesville, Chester, Phoenixville, Westchester from District 16, 7, and 6. Under that scenario, they would have someone to advocate for them in Harrisburg and in Washington, and that advocacy could lead to a fair share of resources. And then there's Montgomery County. We are the poster child for divided communities. Montgomery County is the third most populous county in the state. By number, we should have one congressional district. Our congressional district includes about 700,000 people. Montgomery has nearly 800,000 people. Montgomery County should have one congressional district, and its congressperson should be thinking just about Montgomery County. Instead, Montgomery County has been cracked into 5 districts, and its congresspeople definitely cannot focus on Montgomery County. If you look at this map, you'll see that the majority of each congressional district in regions that are well outside of Montgomery County. Okay, so that basically what we're saying is the congressional districts, there's some in Montgomery, but their area extends well outside of Montgomery County. And in fact, Montgomery County's congressional representative, we don't even have a representative. Out of the 5, we have 0 representatives who actually live in Montgomery County. So if you're a county commissioner, which representatives would you approach to have them advocate for you in Washington? The guys from Philadelphia, the guys from Chester, or the guy from Bucks? That's where they live. So let's look at our state representation. By population, Montgomery County should have 3 state senators. Instead, Montgomery County has 6 state senators. And because the lines have unnecessarily divided counties, cities, and towns, those state senators are not focused solely on Montgomery County residents. The State House has even funkier lines. While Lower Frederick has not been cracked, other municipalities in our area have not been so fortunate. Phoenixville, where I work, has been cracked in 2. Here are the lines for State House districts 156 and 157. So in Phoenixville, if you go down West Bridge Street, on one side of Bridge Street, you're voting for a candidate in one district, and on another side of West Bridge Street, you're voting for the other candidate. They know how Phoenixville votes, and they crack Phoenixville into so that half of them are voting for one House seat and half of them are voting for another State House seat. Similarly with Pottstown. Pottstown has been cracked between the 26 and the 146. Cracking should lead us to ask the question whether or not the lines are fair to everyone who lives in the district, and definitely you can see by these lines, again, that's Pottstown, that it's not fair. Gerrymandering's been around for a long time, but it has changed. Look at the evolution of District 7. It's gone from being somewhat compact 60 years ago to being something that's totally outrageous. So what's changed? First, the technological advances of the last decade have made a serious problem far worse. Many municipalities and private entities use software like Maptitude. This software is terrific for mapping infrastructure assets such as emergency facilities, underground electric, water, and sewer connections. But unfortunately, this software can also be used by mapmakers to process voter records and registration data, voter results, and marketing data. This marketing information includes spending patterns, income, property values, age, education, and more. When combined with the plethora of statistical data resulting from data mining, this software accurately sorts for voters according to instructions given. Now, using this type of tool, parties can pinpoint incumbents and opponents and create surgically precise districts with almost guaranteed results. This should never be allowed. This is something that's new. This is something that's come about in the last couple of decades. To compound this problem, following the Supreme Court's 2010 decision in Citizens United, we have huge amounts of outside, undisclosed money flowing into our state for the purposes of influencing our elections. In a 2010 Wall Street op-ed article, Karl Rove said, he who controls redistricting can control Congress. And basically what he's saying is that if you win state legislative seats, you'll have control of redistricting. And by putting money into state house and state senate seats, you can win the state legislature. And it can be your map that the state legislature is voting on. Prior to the 2010 census, the Republican Party came up with something called Red Map 2010. This group took national money and put it into select state house and state senate seats in order to capture state legislatures and to capture more congressional seats. It's pretty simple math, and none of this is secret. It's all out on the internet, and the websites are available for inspection. If you look at the Red Map 2010 website, they announce their successes here in Pennsylvania. They talk about spending $1 million in Pennsylvania state house races, which tend not to be very expensive, and they boast that they won 3 of the toughest races in the state, and thereby took control of the state house, which allowed them to eke out extra congressional seats with their redistricting maps. Republicans have already announced that they will now spend $125 million to target the state races in 2010. That's 4 times the amount that was spent in spend $125 million to target state races in 2020. That's 4 times the amount they spent in 2010. And they won't be alone next time. They got a head start in 2010, but Democrats are up and running the same game in 2020. Advantage 2020 was announced in 2015. You might notice the graphic. That's Goofy kicking Donald, District 7. PA is at the top of the list for targeting and for flipping from red to blue. And PA District, with or without union, is at the top of that list. And there'll be lots of money that gets spent. And the Democrats have also announced unrig the map, which is an attempt to capture governor seats so that governors have veto power over congressional maps. And then President Obama and Eric Holder will also be working on this issue. Will they be working on this issue to fix it, to make sure that it's fair, or will they be spending, or will they be working on this issue to simply to flip seats from red to blue? We don't know what's going to happen in Pennsylvania. We know they've talked about reform, about flipping, and about lawsuits. Fair Districts PA is a nonpartisan organization. We believe that neither party should control the process. We believe that both parties are guilty of gerrymandering. In Illinois and in Maryland, Democrats have been in charge of the process, and members of the League of Women Voters there are working hard for reform against Democrats. In our state and in other states, reforms are needed against Republicans. Both parties, when they're able, are very happy to capture and to take advantage of the process to their benefit. This will not get better unless it gets fixed, and if it's not fixed, more and more money will flow into our state to capture our state legislator. And remember, he who controls redistricting can control Congress, and you thought the voters decided. So now, why are we such a top target for gerrymandering? First, we are one of the last remaining swing states. Our declining stagnant population is constantly triggering the redrawing of the maps. And second, we have the largest full-time legislature in the country. Since Pennsylvania has more districts, there are fewer voters per district, which means less money is needed to reach voters, and the district is easier to flip. Finally, we have terrible campaign finance laws. According to the Center for Public Integrity, Pennsylvania's ranking is about as low as you can get. If you have outside dollars to spend on capturing Congress, Pennsylvania is the place to spend it. We have very little disclosure, very few limits. We have no limits on PAC donations, gift donations, lobbyist donations, or on funds raised by outside groups. And why would you want to capture Congress? Well, if you're an extractive industry, wouldn't you want to be the one who decides what the rules were? If you're an international trade company, wouldn't you want to set the rules? The outside groups that are spending money in Pennsylvania are not interested in the well-being of our legislatures or Pennsylvanians. It's money that's looking for ways to control what happens in Congress, and we'll be pawned in that game. So the impact on voters is that we have less and less choice. In 2016, 86% of our primary elections did not have opposition. 86%. Even more importantly, nearly 50% of our general election contests did not have opposition. 50%. Voters often feel like their legislators don't listen to them, and the truth is they are unable to listen to their voters. They're listening to the party leadership, and the party leadership is taking instruction from the people who gave outside money. There are many legislators who do believe in democracy and who really do want to see it work. It's discouraging to hear many of them say that it's impossible to accomplish any of the things they want to do. It's often been said that gerrymandering is the keystone of cronyism and control. It holds the system in place. It allows leaders to exercise power in a way that does not allow new voices, new ideas, or reform. So connect the dots. We all have things we care about. It's important to realize that many of the things that